All right, MSNBC host Joe Scarborough backtracking after getting blasted for saying President Trump is hurting America more than the 9/11 terror attackers. That's next on The Five.
Don't pay no mind to the demons, they fill you with fear.
MSNBC's Joe Scarborough is using the anniversary of 9/11 not to remember the nearly 3,000 victims, but to instead take a cheap shot at President Trump. The increasingly unhinged host penning an op-ed titled, quote, "Trump is harming the dream of America more than any foreign adversary ever could." Scarborough criticizes former Presidents George W. Bush and Barack Obama, but then unleashes this absurd attack on Trump. Quote, "For those of us still believing that Islamic extremists hate America because of the freedoms we guarantee to all people, the gravest threat Trump poses to our national security is the damage done daily to America's image." Scarborough is now backtracking after facing heavy criticism. Greg, he's a seasoned political pro, this guy, and to do this on the anniversary of 9/11, it's just dumb.
You know, it's funny, if it was like in June or May and he was sitting somewhere and he goes, "Oh, God, Trump, he's worse than 9/11, I could see him go, "Oh, I don't know what I was thinking," but that's not what he did. This is, like, you could forgive him you can forgive anybody for a dumb comment, but you can't walk back this one central thing, that on 9/11, the anniversary of 9/11, in which you make it it's always about 9/11. It's always about the victims. He made it about Trump as a way of making it about himself.
Exactly.
He wanted the spectacle to be directed at him because he's going to be virtue signaling to all the resistors. And so he actually stole something very valuable from the victims. He stole their moment and made it about him. And Mika and Joe, they're the Spinal Tap of cable news. They should be in Christopher Guest movies. The sum of their stupidity is greater than the two parts. This is the guy who helped Trump get elected, kissing his butt. He enabled the terrorists, I guess. It is amazing how, I mean, again, I forgive anybody, but this was published on the day of an anniversary of the victims. It was screaming, "It's about me, Joe."
And that's the point. It wasn't an offhanded comment, like you said.
Right.
He calculated this, Dana, and published this on the anniversary.
Yes, that's what I was going to say. Like, often we forgive people who say something, like you tweet something spontaneously, or you say something live on television.
You always get to clarify.
Like, "Oh, sorry, I should never have said that." Like when I, called that guy, and you know what, on air, I didn't mean to do that. So you can forgive like those moments. This was definitely pre-calculated. He knew what he was going to do. But also, here's this. You don't just get to, like, throw a column into the Washington Post. It goes through several editors.
Oh, that's a good point.
Okay, so it's not like, and nobody thought to say, "Hey, Joe, maybe, let's scratch this. Let's do something else. Let's maybe take this part out." Nobody did that.
Yeah.
Well, the Republicans aren't going to suffer because he resigned his Republican credentials. I guess he's an independent now, so I don't even know who he represents, let alone himself.
I found myself just being like, did he not write it? Did he not know what the content was?
yeah.
I mean, because to be able to say, oh, like you're all saying, like we've all said stuff on TV where if we could go back and say it again, we'd say it differently. But this, when you write something, you think about it, you put it on paper, it gets filtered. There's a process here. You obviously, it's either intended to do that or somebody else wrote it under your name. It just goes to show, though, I mean, this was a moment where he humiliated himself, and he was called out by a bunch of people. You saw on Twitter, people were going crazy. He has the Trump derangement syndrome now so bad that he's willing to embarrass himself so severely by writing something so insane. You don't like Trump? Fine. You don't like his character? You have questions about his character? Fine. You're equating him now with being potentially worse than terrorists? You've completely lost your mind.
It's not about what he said. It's the day that he chose.
Yeah.
This is supposed to be for victims. That's like he could say, I don't care what he says, but he stole something valuable. That's the problem. He stole something from people.
Well, he's an egomaniac, and he thought that whatever he said about that would have more power because it was said on this day.